Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. As we start our recap of Fargo, if you want to recap or learn more about shows similar to it, check out our previous videos about Boardwalk Empire and S.H.I.E.L.D. Before we begin, click like and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's dive right in. In 2006, insurance salesman Lester Nygaard was having a terrible life as he ended up at the hospital after his former bully Sam broke his nose. He met an enigmatic man named Lorne Malvo, who asked him about his injury. Lester tried to lie, only for Malvo to force the truth out of him. Lester joked about having Malvo kill Sam, only for the latter to do it otherwise. Soon after, Malvo encouraged Lester to take matters into his own hands, causing Lester to kill his wife Pearl for her insults. It escalated further when police officer Vern discovered Pearl's body as Malvo killed him. After the murder, Lester's younger brother Chaz held a funeral for her, and he would later invite him to his home, which he accepted. Meanwhile, officers Molly and Bill investigate Vern's death, where they interrogate Lester. Lester told his alibi while hiding the fact that his hand was injured during the fight. While Bill was satisfied, Molly knew Lester was hiding something, which led her to be taken off the case by Bill. Meanwhile, two hitmen named Grady and Wes were hired by the Fargo crime syndicate to search for Sam's murderer. Then, Malvo is hired by Stavros Milos to stop a blackmail plot against him. Later on, Malvo learned about the source of Milos's blackmail, Don Chumph, and decided to use it against his former employer. He killed Milos's pet dog and upped the ante, causing Milos to suspect that it was his wife, not knowing that Malvo is responsible for it. Meanwhile, Lester returns to work, where he meets Gina, Sam's widow. She attempted to seduce him, only for Lester to leave her alone, not before noticing that Grady and Wes were watching him. Then, Molly managed to make Lester nervous when she accidentally dropped footage of Malvo's presence. After work, Chaz invited his brother to show his machine gun, not knowing Lester had pocketed his taser. The next day, Lester got a call from Grady, who believed that he had slept with Gina and killed Sam and Pearl to keep it a secret. Later on, Malvo, disguised as Peterson, was arrested for the death of Phil McCormick, who was found frozen dead after he arrived. Unfortunately, Malvo was released when he told his fake story, causing police officer Gus to be sent to desk duty. Then, Wes and Grady kidnapped Lester, where they found out someone else had killed Sam. Lester managed to escape using Chaz's taser and had himself arrested to escape his captors. But then, the hitmen did the same and were lucky enough to join Lester in his cell. Both hitmen interrogated Lester, who confessed that it was Malvo who killed Sam, and the police department has footage of him. All three were let go until Lester collapsed due to his infected wound from Pearl's murder. He would meet Molly again, where he asked him if Malvo killed Pearl, forcing him to say that he didn't pay him. She then visited Vern's widow, Ida, where she had given birth to Vern's daughter, Bernadette. She swore to herself that she would find Vern's killer while she glared at Lester in his hospital room, who knew more about it. Meanwhile, the head of the Fargo crime syndicate, Moses Tripoli, learned from Grady and Wes, who killed Sam, who issued the order to kill Malvo on the spot. Later on, Malvo decided to cut ties with Milos by using Chumph as his scapegoat, causing the police to accidentally kill him when he caused a gunshot. Later on, Lester made his own plan by implanting his murder weapon at Chaz's home. Then, Malvo was caught by Grady and Wes until he ambushed Grady and killed him. It led Gus and Molly to go to Chumph's location to learn about what happened as they try to chase Malvo, only for Gus to accidentally shoot Molly due to the blizzard. Later, Lester's plan worked as Chaz was arrested for killing Sam and Pearl, causing him to angrily shout at his brother about what he's done. He was able to have a good time as he also made love to Gina when she seduced him. Meanwhile, FBI agents Bill Budge and Webb Pepper were staking out Moses's hideout when they saw a man land on their car, revealing that Malvo destroyed the syndicate and killed Moses. Gus and Molly later returned, where they were congratulated for solving Pearl and Vern's murder. She thought that Lester was arrested, only to be shocked that it was Chaz. With his problem gone, Lester felt relieved that he could work in peace, which led him to flirt with his co-worker Linda. He was then approached by Gina, who demanded compensation for their sex, prompting Lester to kick her out of the office, impressing Linda. At her father's diner, Molly was thrown a party, but decided to keep her mistake a secret as she decided to leave it be. A year later, Molly married Gus, where she still continued her investigation, while Lester married Linda and accepted an award in Las Vegas. But then, he would meet Malvo again, in white hair and a group of friends. He would attempt to ask Malvo to remember him, only to ignore him. But when he pushed him to his limit, he killed his friends, asking him, "Is this what you want?" It disturbed Lester as he forced Linda to come home. Then, Budge and Pepper meet Molly, where the case about Malvo's massacre was reopened as she showed them her evidence board. Meanwhile, Malvo meets Lou, where he asks for Lester's location, only to be told about a terrible case in the 70s akin to his massacre. At Lester's workplace, he managed to print flight tickets out of the States as he had asked Linda to get them for them. Unfortunately, Malvo was inside and killed Linda, mistaking her for Lester. Scared that Malvo is after him, he would try to get the police to help him, only for Molly to have him imprisoned. He would later escape through a rental car that he stole as he attempted to lure Malvo into his home. He would be able to do so after Malvo killed Budge and Pepper, as he got injured by a bear trap. But while he escaped, Gus surprised him after he found his hideout and killed him in the end. 2 weeks later, Lester is on the run when the police found out about Pearl's murder. He was cornered by Border Patrol until he fell into an icy lake and drowned, ending his life.
Decades before, in 1979, mobster brothers Dodd and Rye Gerhardt discussed the business of their failed money delivery, causing Rye to intimidate local judge Irma to help local debtor Skip. When he found her at a local Waffle Hut, Irma laughed it off, but Rye threatened her to the point of spraying bug spray at him. Rye shot her, causing him to kill the waitress, the cook, and Irma. He would later run outside and see lights, thinking it was a UFO until he was hit by a car. It was revealed to be Peggy Bloomquist, who hit her as her husband and local butcher Ed discovered what she'd done. Rye woke up and attacked Peggy, only for Ed to kill him. The couple decided to cover their crime as they hid his body in a freezer. The next day, twins Whale and Gale were ordered to find Rye after he disappeared while searching for Irma. Later that day, police officers Hank and Lou discussed the Waffle Hut shootout as they investigated there. Meanwhile, Peggy and Ed go about their day with the murder that they caused. While Peggy is working at the salon, Ed is trying to erase all evidence of Rye. He was able to burn their clothes, but couldn't burn his belt buckle. He would then bring Rye's body to the butcher shop he worked at and cut him to pieces. Then, Lou arrived to ask for some bacon, as Ed thought he'd get caught, until Lou was distracted, allowing him to finish disposing of Rye's body. Soon, the Gerhardt clan was desperate to find Rye as they intensified their search. Meanwhile, Hank would find Rye's gun as he would later post posters of Rye. Peggy would then meet Lou's wife, Betsy, where she theorized about Rye's death, leading her to have their car totaled to ensure their alibi. After they crashed their car, Peggy and Ed later, with the former believing they had gotten away with it. Meanwhile, Dodd and associate Hansi asked Skip where Rye was. Skip begged them to be let go, as Dodd had hot asphalt dumped on him for his annoyance. He then ordered Hansi to find his brother at all costs, even killing someone if he had to. Hansi begins his search for Rye, where he came across a broken headlight. He then visits an auto shop where he meets mechanic Sonny and his friend lawyer Carl. Hansi asked the mechanic if he could check Peggy's car, forcing Sonny to threaten him. Before he left, the headlights matched as he went to their home and finds Rye's belt buckle. On the way home, Ed was mad at Peggy for using his check as he was planning to buy the butcher's shop, until Lou meets them and tells them to confess their crime, telling them about the Gerhardts as Peggy refused Lou's protection. Soon after, Hansi meets with Dodd, who told him about Ed, as the Earhart clan sent hitman Virgil to finish Ed as revenge. Meanwhile, Lou became a security guard during Ronald Reagan's campaign, where he even had a personal talk with him, talking about his wife's cancer. Back home, Peggy decided to leave town but chose to sell her car with the hopes of helping her husband. Unfortunately, it wound up in smoke as Ed killed Virgil, which caused the butcher shop to burn. And when Peggy told him about the good news, police sirens rang outside their home. Lou and Hank arrested Ed for the crime as he was sent to the police station. He would ask for a lawyer about his crime, which led Lou to bring a drunk Carl to help him. Meanwhile, Hansi would try to kill Ed, but was completely foiled numerous times. Later, Dodd and two men would search the house, only for Dodd's men to be killed by Peggy and by Dodd accidentally shooting one of them. Peggy managed to knock Dodd out using a cattle prod. Later on, Hank and Lou would bring Ed to the police once more when Ed escaped. Lou wants to catch him, only for Hank to stop him, as he would lead them to Peggy. While it was all going on, the Gerhardts were at war with the Kansas City Mafia. With the chaos going on, Lou ordered Carl and Sonny to protect Betsy until the gang war ended. Meanwhile, the Gerhardts hold a funeral for Rye and their patriarch Otto, with Rye's belt buckle being the only thing left to bury. Later on, the phone call where Ed called the Gerhardts, where he's trying to bargain with them to leave them alone in exchange for Dodd. After the call, he got in Dodd's car and sped away. Before the call, Peggy managed to tie up Dodd as the couple decided to go to Ed's uncle's cabin in the wilderness. While Ed was bargaining with the Gerhardts, Dodd tried to get into Peggy's head, only to get stabbed in the process. Unfortunately, Ed's bargaining with the Gerhardts failed as he was left with no choice but to ask Hitman Milligan for help, which he accepted. erupted. It then culminated in Dodd's attempted escape as both Peggy and Ed tried to stop him. Then, Hansi arrived and shot Dodd in the head as he was beginning to be tired of life. Then, Hank and Lou arrived, causing a shootout, with Peggy stabbing Hansi with her scissors as he escaped. When it was over, Ed admitted his deal with Milligan to the police, forcing them to have a wire placed to arrest Milligan for protection. Unfortunately, Lou didn't want the Bloomquists to die, as he was able to have Hank protect them. At the motel where they would meet, chaos ensued as the Gerhardts would ambush the place to try and find Dodd, not knowing that Hansi lied to them. It led to the destruction of their Gerhardts, along with the deaths of numerous troopers, and Ed being shot by Hansi. Lou arrived at the motel and saw a wounded Hank, who told him to stop Hansi from killing the Bloomquists. Ed and Peggy hide inside the supermarket's meat locker, where Ed told her that even if they survive this, their relationship is over. Then, smoke filled the locker as she thought that Hansi was trying to smoke them out. She tried to kill him until it was a delusion, as Ed was already dead and Hansi had already escaped. Upon her arrest, Peggy broke down how women like her won't make a choice, but Lou told her how she's just trying to protect her family. Later on, Hansi would take a new identity as Moses Tripoli, where he would meet two boys who would eventually be Grady and Wes. Milligan, on the other hand, would start his own criminal empire. In the next story, in 2010, parking lot entrepreneur Emmit would meet his estranged brother Ray and his ex-con fiancée Nikki during the 25th wedding anniversary of him and his wife Stella. It would lead to Ray demanding an expensive stamp as compensation for his car. Emmit ignored his response, causing Ray and Nikki to steal his stamp for revenge. He hired parolee Maurice to steal the stamp, but it went wrong when he robbed the wrong home and killed its owner, Ennis. When Maurice met with Ray, he attacked him for his mishap that forced Nikki to kill Maurice when he threatened to go to the cops. Police officer Gloria Burgle would try to solve the case along with her partner Donnie Mashman, revealing Ennis's true identity as Thaddeus Mobley. Meanwhile, Ray used his workplace to mark Maurice's death as an accident, where Nikki convinced him that he was stressed because of the stamp. Eventually, the two met and decided to bury the hatchet. Unfortunately, it was a distraction for Nikki to find the stamp, only for her to write an insulting message in blood and place her tampon. Luckily, the stamp was moved as Emmit and his secretary Cy would clean up the mess. Later on, Gloria would arrive in LA to learn more about Mobley, meeting his former lover Vivian, who told her that she had forgotten about what happened. It was revealed that Mobley was scammed by Vivian and Howard Zimmerman, which made Mobley beat him into a coma. He would later escape and change his name to Stussy after seeing a plaque with the name Dennis Stussy and Sons. Then, Gloria would attend Ennis's funeral, when her partner told her about Maurice's fingerprints at the scene of the crime. She would then find Ray and ask him about Maurice's involvement in Ennis's death, where he's a failed parolee due to his current records. Later on, Emmit would meet businessman Varga, who coaxed him to be his partner with numerous threats, including about Ray and Nikki being problems for their future business. At night, Officer Winnie Lopez would tell Gloria about Ray and Emmett's last name, which also shared the same name as Ennis. Then, Ray and Emmett's feud grew worse, as he not only stole $10,000 disguised as him, but he also made a sex tape with Nikki, making Emmit think he's cheating on Stella. Because of this, Stella and her family left in disgust. And during a shouting match with his brother, Ray was sent to the police, where Gloria interrogated him until he was let go for lack of evidence. Later on, Emmett's company was about to be audited by the IRS due to Ray's withdrawal of his money from the bank. It culminated in Nikki being beaten up by Varga's men, causing Ray to treat her wounds in the aftermath. After tending to Nikki's wounds, Ray swore to make the men pay for what they've done. Later on, Gloria and Winnie would visit Emmit to learn more about his brother, only for Varga to intervene. At night, Ray had Nikki sent to a motel to hide, as he had forgotten to take their money, only to find Emmit, who wants to end their feud for good. Unfortunately, Ray didn't want the stamp anymore until Emmit accidentally killed Ray by shoving the glass frame into his throat. He would call Varga and his men to tamper with the crime scene with the hopes of making it an accident. With his brother's death, Emmit becomes unstable, causing him to cite out false facts said to him by Varga. Meanwhile, Cy knew that he was losing his trust in Emmit as he began to lean towards Varga for support. Gloria would try to show that Nikki wasn't the killer, which led her to try to talk to her, but she failed. Nikki would be placed in a prison bus on its way to prison, as she was also cuffed beside her seatmate, Wes. Suddenly, the bus overturned, revealing it to be the work of Varga's men. When the bus overturned, Wes and Nikki managed to escape as they tried to avoid alerting them. They ran to a forest, while finding a way to remove their cuffs. They soon found an axe until Varga
Varga's men arrived, and they managed to kill one of them. They're able to escape and find refuge in a bowling alley owned by Paul Moraine. 3 months later, Gloria is a deputy. Emmit, on the other hand, would hate working for his company as Varga took control of it. It led him to refuse signing papers to make more money, which led him to a police station and begin his confession. At the station, Emmit told Gloria how his feud with his brother began. It started when both of them inherited their father's possessions, where Emmit manipulated Ray to take the car rather than the stamp collection. He would use the collection to create his company, with all but one. He then told everything to Gloria of Ray's death and that beating Ray has turned hollow. Later on, Varga would meet with Nikki, who offers her a job, only to decline as she wanted revenge for Ray's death and the numerous attempts against her life. She only told him to give her money or die by her hands. With Nikki's money, Varga and his men would go to Nikki's location until it was a trap set by her, as his men were killed by wrench as Varga escaped. Meanwhile, Nikki kidnapped Emmit as she wanted to kill him for what he's done to Ray. Unfortunately, a police officer noticed them and grew suspicious, causing both of them to kill each other. 3 years later, Emmit was arrested for tax evasion but was on probation as he had dinner with his family. But when he gets dessert, he is shot dead by Wes. Eventually, Gloria became a DHS agent and managed to catch Varga at the airport. With 3 seasons finished, only 2 seasons remain. Always remember to like, share, and subscribe, as every action counts.
The year is 1950, when high schooler Ethelrita would be sent to be disciplined for multiple reasons. She would tell about the crime families of her hometown of Kansas City. She was currently living with her mixed parents, who were working in the mortuary business together. A year before, black mobster Loy Cannon would meet with Italian mobster named Donatello Fada, where they would exchange sons as a sign of peace. Loy traded his son Satchel with Fada's younger son, Zero. In the present, Loy and Fada would contemplate their future, while his middle, Gaetano, would visit the States. Unfortunately, he wound up dead after his request was mistaken for euthanization by Orietta Mayflower. The next day, Ethelrita would visit another funeral home for some formaldehyde, where she would witness Gaetano during his father's funeral. He then ordered that the Cannon family should be killed, as he suspected them of their plans, only to be rebutted that the family would honor Donatello's wishes before his death through its new ga, Josto. Meanwhile, Loy would teach Zero about respect until he managed not to be goaded by Gaetano to start a fight. Meanwhile, tension brewed within the Fada family, as Gaetano began to hate Josto's leadership. It started when Josto got mad at Gaetano for taking the Cannon slaughterhouse without guide the process. It would lead him to have one of Josto's family killed, only to fail. Meanwhile, Loy was teaching his son Samuel about the effects of money when later on, an attack on his men occurred. His lieutenant Dr. Senator Da told him about the possible outbreak of a Fada civil war, making Loy wary of when it would happen. The Nyrita would visit Mayflower for a job, where Mayflower would tell her the following details. Meanwhile, Loy made an alliance with mobster Mort Kellerman through a gun sale. He then promised himself that if the Fadas ever hurt his family, he would retaliate. Meanwhile, Ethelrita starts her day as Mayflower's maid, where she discovers her secret of killing Donatello and her poison stash. Soon after, Loy captured Fada ally Rabbi Milligan to bring Satchel back or have him killed for his failure. Soon after, Josto would show Gaetano Howdai members arrested outside the bar. Then, Ethelrita would write a letter to Dr. Harvard regarding Mayflower's crimes. 1 year later, Loy was able to bring the Cannon members arrested and be released, as he stopped his wife Buell from trying to get Satchel back through violent force. Then, Dr. Senator would finish a meeting with the hopes of stopping Gaetano, only to be killed in the process. Later on, Loy would kidnap Gaetano as he planned to take his revenge slowly for the death of Dr. Senator. Later, Josto would learn that the New York Mafia would assist him in 2 conditions. He must fix their relationship with Cannon Limited and be friends with Gaetano again. Unfortunately, it would fail as he learned about Gaetano's kidnapping. He then planned to have Satchel killed and pin it on one of his lieutenants, only for Milligan docile of bringing him back to Loy when the war was over. Then, Loy would meet Fada associate Violante, where he was given a choice to give Gaetano back through New York's demands. He also apologized for what's going on, as he would also offer territory as compensation. Unfortunately, he was also lied to by Josto that Satchel and Milligan died while protecting his son. It made Loy conflicted as to whether to kill Gaetano or not. Regardless, he gave up Gaetano and the territory to ensure peace between the 2 groups. Later on, Gaetano would knock out Josto, but was so proud of him for killing Satchel that he immediately pledged his loyalty to him. Soon after, Buell and Samuel would visit Ethelrita's family's funeral home for Satchel's corpse, but soon discovered nothing. Later on, Mayflower found out about Ethelrita for sending a letter to Dr. Harvard when she found her journal. Meanwhile, Gaetano and Josto would relax in their backyard when they were attacked by Kellerman mobsters, killing their soldiers and their mother. Meanwhile, Satchel and Rabbi Milligan were on the road together, as the latter decided to start a new life away from Kansas City. When people ask about Satchel, Milligan would lie that he was the son of his best friend that died in World War II. During their travels, Satchel would adopt a stray dog named Rabbit, joining them on their journey. Soon after, they were found by their former associates Calamita, who tried to kill him when a tornado sucked Rabbi away. It would lead Satchel to continue his journey without the Rabbi, along with Rabbit. Back in Kansas City, the war between Cannon Limited and the Fata family reached its peak, as the Cannons were dying left and right. It would force Loy to make an alliance with Happy Halloway to end it quickly. But then, he would meet Ethelrita, who was able to have Mayflower arrested for her poisoning while having proof that she killed Donatello, causing both of them to figure out how to end the war. Loy would end the war as he had Mayflower and Josto killed for the murder of Donatello. And although he lost half of his territory, he would reunite with his family as he found Satchel again. In the end, he would enjoy seeing his family together, until he was stabbed to death as Satchel saw his father dying. Years later, Mike Milligan would reminisce about his time as Satchel when he and Gail would visit the site of the Sioux Falls Massacre, where Ed was waiting for him. In the last story, in 2019, housewife Dorothy Lyon tased 2 men during a riot at school. She was arrested but was bailed out by her husband, Wayne. She and he would have dinner with Wayne's mother, Lorraine, and have a Christmas card picture together. Unfortunately, she would be kidnapped by criminals Ole Munch and Donald Ireland. She was able to escape and kill Ireland by knocking him out as his head cracked on the toilet seat. She then returned home, causing Wayne to be confused about where she'd been, lying to him that she had a nightly drive to ward off her stress. Later on, Lorraine would grow suspicious of Dot's kidnapping, as she thought it was her way to extort her for revenge. Then, she would tell her son about Dot faking her kidnapping, causing him not to side with her mother. She had her bodyguard, Jerome, to slap him for not believing her. Then, State Trooper Whit Farr would meet Officer Indira, where he told her about a woman looking like Dot who stopped one of the kidnappers. Then, Munch would later kill one of Deputy Gator Tillman's friends as he carved out a message that said, "You owe me." Soon enough, Dot and Wayne prepared to defend their home by creating numerous traps and had her, Wayne, and their son Scotty wear bulletproof vests. The couple would attempt to buy some guns, only for them to wait a week to receive them. Meanwhile, Gator would cover up his friend's death as he and his friend Roy kidnapped Dot during Halloween. And on that day, Gator and his men would push their plan forward as Munch arrived at Dot's home, dripping with blood. At Halloween, Gator would lead his men to kidnap Dot, only to be stopped due to the traps Dot and Wayne installed. Unfortunately, Wayne got electrocuted by one of the traps, causing a fire in their home. During the fire, Dot and his family escaped as Wayne recuperated in the hospital. She would then be approached by Whit and Indira, involving the break-in, only to be stopped by her mother-in-law's lawyer, Danish Graves. Meanwhile, Roy was able to cover up Munch's crimes as he goaded an abusive husband to shoot him, as he killed him first. Later on, Dot and Scotty would live at Lorraine's heavily defended compound, but would have Dot be sent to be institutionalized. Unfortunately, she escaped and proceeded to take Wayne with her. But then, Gator found out about Dot's escape as he ordered his men to find her immediately. She was able to hide from them as she was able to fool them by having them kidnap another patient instead. She then arrived at Indira's home, where she admitted that her ex-husband is after her, as Indira promised that she would take care of Scotty for a few days while she takes care of her business. Then, Gator would discover that they captured the wrong man, forcing his men to kill him. Meanwhile, FBI agents Joaquin and Meyer told Indira about Roy's illegal activities, including his involvement in a right-wing militia. She then visited Lorraine when her husband Lars didn't take great care of Scotty. Lorraine would give Indira a job as head of her security team, as she would learn of Dot's abuse by her former husband Roy. Meanwhile, Dot was driving along the road where she would visit a diner and dig up a postcard named Camp Utopia. She would soon visit it, which was a shelter for women run by Linda, Roy's wife, and Gator's mother. She pleaded with her to be her witness against her former husband, in which she accepted, except she has to perform a puppet show about her past of when she was married to Roy. Unfortunately, it was a dream as she woke up inside the diner. She would leave until she ended up in a hospital when a car skidded across the road. She would be shocked when she saw Roy by her bedside. Later on, Roy kidnapped Dot from the hospital as he shackled her inside the barn. Then, he finds out when Danish sabotaged his speech to be sheriff when 3 other men claiming to be him were on stage. Embarrassed
Embarrassed by it, he would vent his anger towards Dot, who came close to killing Roy until Danish arrived. Danish offers his help to fix his chances to become sheriff in exchange for Dot's safe return. Unfortunately, Roy killed him and had his men bury the body, where Dot discovered that Roy had already killed Linda. Soon after, Indira would find Dot's location, prompting Lorraine to ask the US president for a favor by sending the FBI and state police to save Dot. But as they arrived in the compound, Roy summoned his father-in-law's militia, causing a firefight in the compound. Meanwhile, Dot managed to escape as she hid in the pit where Danish was buried. Unfortunately, she was found by Roy's men, but was killed when Monk saved her. Eventually, Roy was caught by the police, not before killing Whit by stabbing him with a knife. In the aftermath of the firefight, Dot would see Gator again as both of them reconciled, as the two of them would come home. A year later, Dot would visit Roy as she told him that his prison life would turn into hell as she convinced the prisoners to make him suffer. She would then meet Munch for hurting him in their first encounter, only to forgive her after she helped him make dinner, where for the first time in his life, he was happy. And that's how Fargo ended. From Lester meeting Malvo to Dot's kidnapping, this black comedy showed that no matter the era, crime always occurs, from crime families to simple murder. What are your thoughts on the show? Do you think of it as grim and dark? Do you like its cast? And most importantly, how do you feel about the overall story? Comment down below so we can know more about your overall feelings. Thank you for watching and see you in our next recap.